Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be looking at lesson 88. The title is Multiple Unit Multipliers, Converting Units of Area. So we're going to be looking at a couple different problems together. In front of you, I hope that you are looking at or you are able to print the sheets for today's lesson. We're going to be talking right about that. I'm going to be writing on it here so you can keep notes along with me. I'm also going to scroll down here. I'm going to keep down on this part. This is just going to be, this is kind of like our pretend. Let me get this going here. This is like if we were sitting in class together, this would be the whiteboard. And I will tell you what needs to go into your notes. But for the first problem and the first couple things I want to introduce to you, I'm going to write them on this sheet for you just to follow along. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we know that if we take a number and we multiply it by 1, the value of that number never changes. I can multiply 5 times 1 and I still get 5. I can take 5 and multiply 1 and then multiply 1 again and I still get 5. So the value of 5 never changes. I can continue to do that with as many ones as I want to. And still get the value of 5. It never changes. 5 stays. So we know that it doesn't matter how many ones we multiply with any number, the value of that number will never change. So keep that in mind as we navigate through this lesson together. Okay, so we've done unit multipliers in the past. This isn't the first time that we've addressed unit multipliers or worked with them, but let's look at a couple things. I want to just refresh your memories on that. We can have a unit multiplier, remember, is set up as a ratio. Oops, for some reason I can't get that to cooperate. That's 3 feet, and we know that 3 feet is equivalent to 1 yard. So we can write a ratio that looks like this, where we say 3 feet is 1 yard. We can also flip that around and say 1 yard is equivalent to 3 feet. So 1 yard is 3 feet as well. There's a lot of different unit multipliers that we've worked with. We could use 12 inches is 1 foot, right? Or we could flip that around to say 1 foot is 12 inches. But remember, the point is whatever your numerator is going to be one measurement, and the bottom, the denominator of that, or the bottom part of that ratio will be a different measurement. So as I said, here we have feet and yards, but they are equivalent measurements. So keep that in mind. So we're going to be using these unit multipliers to do some conversions. And I'm going to go ahead and start with the first example that I want you to watch me do. So let's just say that we are going to take 10 yards and we're going to convert this to inches. Okay, now you could do that the easy way and simply take 10 yards and multiply that by 36 inches, right? That's how we've done it for many years. But what we want to do today is make that conversion using unit multipliers. And we're actually going to use 2 different unit multipliers to break this down from yards to inches. So we always start with where we're beginning. And at this point, it's 10 yards. We're going to multiply that with the unit multiplier. And we're going to use yard on the bottom. Okay, and we're going to break this down a little at a time. So keep in mind, we're going to use 2 unit multipliers. So the first one is going to be the next measurement down from yards, which is going to be feet. How many feet are in 1 yard? 3 feet are in 1 yard. Remember, we cross out. The reason we know the yard goes underneath on the bottom of our ratio is because we want to be able to cross cancel our yards here. Okay, so now we're going to multiply with 1 more unit measurement. Now keep in mind, here's what I want you to look at what I'm doing. Remember up here, when we multiplied 5 with 1, it did not change the value of 5. Well, here, we're multiplying using a unit multiplier that's actually equal to 1. Think about it. 3 feet over 1 yard would be the same as 3 feet over 3 feet, right? So that's equal to 1. I'm just not going to use 3 feet on the bottom here. I'm going to use 1 yard. Okay, but that's still equal to 1. So I'm not multiplying this 10 yards with anything other than something that is equal to 1. Okay, so 10 yards is still remaining intact. We're not changing the value of that. Okay, so let's figure out what the next unit multiplier would be. Okay, well, we know we want it to be feet down here because I want to be able to cross cancel our feet out. Okay, so let's set this equal to how many inches. That would be the next measurement down from feet. We would look at inches, and besides, that's where we want to go. We're trying to end with how many inches this is going to be. So 12 inches is equal to 1 foot. We can cross cancel out our measurements. And what am I left with here? We're left with inches, which is what we wanted to convert this 10 yards to. We will multiply our numbers 10 times 3 times 12. And when you do that math, let's look at this. We'd have 30, right? We'd have 10 times 3 is 30, and 30 times 12 would be 360 inches. And that would be the answer to that problem using 2 unit multipliers to make the conversion. Okay, so that is the first problem. From there, let's go ahead up to our notes. And I want you to start with example 1. So I'm going to be right here. In fact, I'm going to use blue here now so you can see what I'm writing. So I'm right here at example 1. We're going to use 2 unit multipliers to convert 5 hours to seconds. Okay, so we've got 5 hours. We're going from hours to seconds, and we're going to use 2 unit multipliers. All right, so the first one, I'm going to expand this a little bit for you so you can follow me better. Okay, so the first example in your notes, up in the upper left-hand corner, we're going to start with this problem. So we always start with where we're beginning. What are we converting? We're converting 5 hours, and we're going to multiply this with our 2 unit multipliers. So let's pick the first one. This is our times sign. First unit multiplier, we know that we're going to have hours on the bottom. Oops, let me just get rid of that S here. Whoops. I'm getting used to this app as well. Okay, so we're going to have 1 hour on the bottom, and the next measurement from hours, breaking it down, would be minutes. 60 minutes is the same as 1 hour. We can cross cancel out our hours. And then we're going to take our next unit multiplier and write it here. So let's make a conversion here for a unit multiplier. Okay, well, I have minutes right here. So that means I'm going to have minutes down here. So how many seconds? That would be the next measurement, breaking it down. Seconds is the next measurement of time. 60 seconds is equal to 1 minute. See how I have minutes here and minutes here? So we can cross cancel those out. And what am I left with? Because we're trying to get down to seconds, remember? So our answer is going to be seconds. Well, let's multiply. So we have, what do we have left? We have 5, 60, and 60. And if you do that math, let's see here, I'd have 5 times 3,600 turns out to be 18,000 seconds. Okay, also in your notes, I want you to draw some arrows down here so that you can make a notation that what we're doing here is not changing the value of 5 hours as we do our conversion of measurement of time here, that 60 minutes over 1 hour is equal to 1. And 60 seconds to 1 minute is equal to 1. So we're not changing the value of 5 hours when we multiply using these unit multipliers. We're still multiplying by 1. We're just converting from hours to seconds. Okay, so that is the answer to example 1. I'm going to go back down to my sheet on the bottom here, and I want to erase out all of this because I'm going to do the next problem here. I'm not sure yet on this app how to add another sheet to this, so you have to bear with me here a little bit. And I'm going to go back to black. I lost my N there. There we go. Okay, now we're going to look at another problem. This is actually in our books. Let me pull this example out for us here. Okay, now we're going to convert something slightly different. We're not going to be converting as, we're going to be converting something some area measurements. So let's just say we have a rectangle. That's not so beautiful, and the measurements are 3 feet by 2 feet. Okay, now think about this with me. In order to get the area of this, you guys know that you would take 3 feet times 2 feet, right? And you would get 6 feet squared. Well, I want you to think about this. Okay, so there's how we get the 6. It's 3 times 2. And we're multiplying feet times feet. And that, by the way, is how we get our exponent of 2 here squared, because feet times feet is feet squared. Okay, so keep that in mind, that feet squared is feet times feet, or foot times foot, okay? It's no different than if I was going to have a measurement of inches squared. If these were inches instead of feet, if this was inches and this was inches, it would be inches squared. So we would do inch times inch. It would give us inches squared. So let's watch what I mean by this. So let's take 6 feet squared, and we're going to convert this using 2 unit multipliers. We're going to convert this to square inches. Okay, so we're going to take 6 feet squared and we're going to convert it to square inches. Okay, so here's what we do. We start with 6 feet squared. Remember, we always start with the beginning measurement. And we're going to set up our problem here. We're going to take 6, just like I did right here, how I showed you. We take 6 feet times feet, okay, because the feet squared is feet times feet. Now we're going to take our unit multiplier. So I wanted to just break this part into that first. Now we're going to set up our unit multipliers. Okay, so because we're going to have 2 unit multipliers, we're going to have 12 inches is the same as 1 foot. And I have to multiply that a second time because this represents the first feet that we labeled here, or foot. Okay, we're going to multiply it again, the same unit multiplier. Okay, we're going to inches, so we're successful in setting up our ratio or our unit multiplier using inches and feet right here. But this one represents, this one right here represents this foot here. This foot is represented here. Okay, so now we have, let me rewrite what we're left with. And remember, these are equal to 1. So we're really not changing the value, are we, of this part of our problem. Okay, we're just re-expressing it a different way. So let's do our multiplication. So what do I have left here? I have 6. Oh, and by the way, let's do our cross canceling. So this one takes care of this, and this foot takes care of this. So now what I have left is 6 times 12 times 12, and we have inches left here. So we successfully broke it down into inches. Now let's do our math. So I'd have 12 times 12 is 144, and 144 times 6 equals 864 inches squared. And that's the answer to that. So that's how we convert area problems, breaking down from square feet to square inches. Now let's do one together. So back up in your notes, example 2, we're going to convert 5 yards squared to square feet. So we always start with the beginning measurement. So let's write down, I'm going to change my color here. Go use some blue again. So we start with 5 yards squared. We're going to re-express that as 5 times yard, because remember, yard squared is simply yard times yard. Okay, now let's multiply with our unit multipliers. We're supposed to go to square feet from yards, so we want to have a unit multiplier that's going to have yard on the bottom so we can cross cancel them. So what's equal to 1 yard? We're going to feet, so we're going to put 3 feet right here. We need another one because we have the square here, so we have to put it twice. So 3 feet over 1 yard. And now remember, these are the same as 1, so we're not changing any value here. We're just using it to multiply it out to make our conversion. So we can cross out yards, yards. And what am I left with? I have 5 times 3 times 3. And we have feet, which is what we're trying to get to, remember? So that is 9 times 5, which is 45 feet. And look, we have 2 of those. So it's feet squared. So we successfully converted 5 yards squared to 45 feet squared. And that would be your answer there. Okay, so make sure you're circling all the things that I've circled so you'll remember the important parts at the end and the 2 feet, which makes feet squared. All right, we're going to try another example, example 3 over here. We're going to convert 1.2 meters squared to square centimeters. So we start with, and we're going to go to square centimeters. So we start with 1.2 meters squared. We're going to rewrite that or re-express that as 1.2 times 1 meter times another meter, because remember, this part represents that. Okay, now let's get our unit multipliers. We're going to centimeters, so we're going to need to put meters on the bottom so we can cross cancel out our measurements. So 1 meter is equal to how many centimeters? And if you can't remember how we do that, remember we can do King Hector died by, and this is our basic measurement, so this is where meters is going to be. King Hector died by drinking chocolate milk. Okay, so we're starting at meters and we're going to go to centimeters here. So if I were to write this down, I'd have 1 meter, and I'm going 2 places to the right. Remember that? So 1 meter is equal to 100 centimeters. Now, in order for me to, because remember, I can cross out 1 meter, but I have this other meter here, so I have to multiply it again. And now I can cross out the other meter, and I'm left with my centimeter measurements. So now I have 1.2 times 100 times 100 centimeters squared. So what is that going to give me? So I'm going to write this out. I'm going to actually come down here to this next line. I'm going to write 1.2. And since I have a decimal point here, I'm just going to write a times sign here. Times 100 centimeters times 100 centimeters to get our answer here. So let's think about this. So I've got 100 times 100, which is going to be 4 zeros here. That's going to be 10,000 centimeters squared. And it's 1.2 times. Okay, so we're going to multiply here the 1.2 times the 10,000 centimeters squared. So how many zeros do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to take 1.2 and I'm going to move my decimal point 4 places to the right. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is going to be equal to 12,000. So the answer, 1.2 times 10,000 is 12,000 centimeters squared. And that's the answer to example 3. Okay, so make sure that's all in your notes. This is also posted to Edmodo, so if you didn't catch any of those notes, you can grab those from there and continue to fill those in. Remember, I'm grading you on completion of your notes, so please make sure that you have completed those. Again, you can find this on Edmodo. The number of problems are here that you need to do, and I'll also upload a blank sheet for you. Obviously, you should have that printed, and you're working on those now as we've taken notes. So complete those problems today. When they're done, they're going to be due tomorrow. You will upload those to Edmodo. If you can scan them into your computer, you can upload those to Edmodo and send them to me by clicking on message. And then where it asks for who you're sending it to, the recipient will be me, Laurie Quigley, and I will see your work there. I will grade it and send it back to you if you want to make corrections. I will also include on this post to Edmodo the correction sheet, so you will have that there. You can print that as well, or you can be doing this on your own paper at home, but please make sure that you're setting it up to look exactly like they need to look, just because that's the format that makes it easy for us all to follow these problems, and it makes it easier for me to grade. If you have any questions, you can post them to Edmodo. I'll be happy to look at those throughout the day and answer those for you. I hope you guys can get back into the swing of things. I look forward to hearing from everyone. You guys have a great day.